In the mountains of Ifugao, where the rice terraces climb toward heaven like the steps of ancient gods, there's a village that doesn't appear on any map. The locals call it Nayon ng Pintuan, the village of doors. If you ask the elders in neighboring towns about it, they'll go quiet. Some will pretend they don't understand. Others will make the sign of the cross and tell you to stop asking questions. But if you're persistent, if you wait until the tuba wine has loosened their tongues, they might tell you about Hiraya and what she did to save her people, or what she became. This happened in 1896 during the final gasps of Spanish rule. The revolution was spreading through Luzon like wildfire, but the mountains of Ifugao remained isolated, protected by their remoteness and the terraces that outsiders found impossible to navigate. The village of Nayon ng Pintuan had stood for 7 generations, its houses built in the traditional way, with doors carved from Nara wood, blessed by the Mumbaki shamans, and decorated with symbols meant to keep evil spirits away. Then the Spanish came. Not soldiers, those couldn't reach the mountain villages. No, this was something worse. A priest named Padre Cristobal, fleeing the revolutionaries, wounded and desperate, stumbling into the village with fever burning through him. The village healer, a woman named Hiraya, took him in. She was known for her kindness, her skill with herbs, her ability to speak with the Anato spirits that inhabited the terraces and forests. She nursed the priest for 3 days. On the 4th day, he died. On the 5th day, the sickness began. It started with Hiraya's neighbor, Mang Datu. He woke screaming about shadows with too many arms reaching through his door. By noon, he was dead, his body twisted in a position no human spine should bend. Then Aling Rosa, then little Benito, then the village chief. One by one they died. Not from fever, not from plague. They died of fear. Each victim claimed the same thing before death took them, that something was coming through their door. Something that wore the shape of Padre Cristobal, but wasn't him. Something that spoke in tongues no living person should understand. Something that wanted to take them somewhere else. Hiraya consulted with the Mumbaki. They performed rituals, sacrificed chickens and pigs, called upon the Anito for protection. Nothing worked. The Mumbaki told her the truth. Padre Cristobal hadn't died of his wounds. He'd been carrying something else. A curse from the old country, older than Christianity, older than Spain itself. A doorway curse, something that turned thresholds into passages for things that should stay buried. Every door in this village is infected now, the Mumbaki whispered. Every entrance, every exit, every threshold, they're all gateways now, and something is learning how to use them. How do we stop it? Hiraya asked. The Mumbaki wouldn't meet her eyes. We don't. We seal the village and let it die. Better one village than the entire mountain. But Hiraya had lost her husband to Spanish muskets years before. She'd lost her son to illness. This village, these people, were all she had left. She refused to let them die. That night, Hiraya did something forbidden. She went to the Lawa ng Kaluluwa, the Soul Lake, a place where even the Mumbaki feared to tread. The lake sat in a crater at the mountain's peak, its waters black and still, never disturbed by wind or rain. It was said that the oldest Anito lived there, not the helpful spirits of harvest and home, the ancient ones. The ones from before people carved the terraces, before villages existed, before the world had shape. Hiraya stood at the water's edge and called out in the old language, the words her grandmother had taught her, words that tasted like copper on her tongue. I offer a trade, she said to the darkness, a life for lives, a door for doors. The water rippled, though there was no wind. Something surfaced, not rising, just suddenly there, as if it had always been there and she'd only just now seen it. It didn't have a shape exactly. It was more like an absence of light, a void in the form of something almost human. When it spoke, its voice came from inside her own head. What kind of door? Me, Hiraya said. I'll become the door. I'll take the curse into myself. I'll keep the 100 doors of my village sealed from the inside. Nothing will pass through them as long as I stand guard. Forever? Yes. You understand what you're offering. Your body will become the threshold. Your soul will become the lock. You'll exist between worlds, neither alive nor dead, neither here nor there. You'll feel every attempt to cross, every scratch at the wood, every shadow that tries to slip through. You'll know them all, forever. Hiraya thought of Meng Datu's twisted corpse, of little Benito's final screams, of her village dying one by one. I understand. The thing in the water smiled, though it had no mouth, then stepped forward and become the keeper. When Hiraya returned to the village at dawn, she was different. Her skin had taken on a strange quality, not quite wood, not quite flesh, somewhere in between. Her eyes had darkened to the color of old Nara. When she walked, her footsteps made no sound. She went from house to house, placing her hand on each door, all 100 of them. As she touched them, something passed between her and the wood. The doors shuddered. The curse that had infected them flowed into her, thread by thread, until she carried all of it inside her body. The villagers watched in horror and awe as their healer transformed before their eyes. With each door she absorbed, she became less human. Her fingers lengthened. Her joints moved in ways they shouldn't. Her face became a mask of grain and shadow. By the time she reached the 100th door, her own, she barely looked like herself anymore. She turned to face the villagers one last time. "The doors are safe now," she said, her voice like wind through hollow wood. "But I must remain here, always. If I leave, the curse returns. If I die, the doors open. I am the keeper now. This is my burden." The village chief stepped forward, tears in his eyes. "How long?" Hiraya's wooden smile was terrible to see. "Until the last door rots. Until the last house falls. Until there's nothing left to guard." She walked into her house and closed the door behind her. It never opened again. Months passed, years. The village of Nayon ng Pintuan continued, but it was never the same. Hiraya's house stood at the village center, its door firmly shut. Sometimes at night, people would hear movement inside, footsteps that didn't sound quite human, the creak of wood that might have been breathing. No one dared enter. No one dared knock. But here's what they discovered. The doors worked differently now. If someone died in the village, from old age, from accident, from natural causes, their body would be placed before Hiraya's door at sunset. By morning, it would be gone. Not taken, just gone. Vanished as if it had never existed. And the spirits of the dead never lingered. They never became ghosts. They passed through cleanly, peacefully, guided by whatever Hiraya had become. The villagers realized she wasn't just keeping evil out, she was shepherding souls through. Every death in the village passed through her door, through her, to wherever the dead are meant to go. She had become more than a guardian. She'd become a threshold itself, the passage between life and death, between this world and the next. For 70 years this arrangement held. Then, in 1966, developers came. They wanted to build a road through the mountains to bring tourism to the rice terraces. The government agreed, Progress, they said, economic opportunity. The road would go straight through Nayon ng Pintuan. The villagers refused. They tried to explain about Hiraya, about the curse, about the doors. The developers laughed. The government officials dismissed it as superstition. One night, a bulldozer operator, drunk and angry about the delays, decided to take matters into his own hands. He drove his machine up to the village and aimed it at the first house he saw, Hiraya's house. He revved the engine and smashed through the door. The sound that emerged from that broken doorway was like every scream that had ever been screamed, all at once. The bulldozer's engine died. The operator tried to run, but something caught him. Not hands, not claws, something else, and pulled him into the darkness beyond the broken door. His screams lasted for 3 days, though his body was never found. And then the other doors began to open, all 100 of them, all at once, swinging wide on hinges that hadn't moved in 70 years. And from each one came things, the shadows that Hiraya had kept at bay, the cursed entities that had been trying to cross for 7 decades, everything she'd held back with her transformation. They poured out like smoke, like oil, like darkness given form. The developers' camp was found 3 days later. Every tent collapsed, every vehicle overturned, every person gone, not dead, just gone, as if they'd been pulled through invisible doorways into somewhere else. The government sent soldiers. They disappeared. They sent priests. They disappeared. They sent investigators. They disappeared. Finally, they did what governments do when they can't explain something. They pretended it never happened. They rerouted the road. They removed Nayon ng Pintuan from official maps. They classified the area as a protected zone. No entry. No exceptions. But the villagers know the truth. Hiraya is still there, in what remains of her house, still keeping her vigil. The door was destroyed, yes, but she is the door now. She's trying to pull the entities back, to seal the breach, to restore the barrier. But it's harder now. She's weakened. The curse is spreading again, slowly, door by door, house by house, creeping down the mountain toward the lowlands. Sometimes hikers who ignore the warnings report seeing something in those mountains. A woman made of wood and shadow, standing impossibly still among the trees. Her mouth opens as if to speak, but only the sound of creaking hinges emerges. She's not asking for help. She's warning them to run. Because when the last door finally falls, when Hiraya can no longer hold the threshold, everything she's kept sealed for over a century will come pouring out. And there aren't enough doors in the world to hide behind. They say the rice terraces of Ifugao are among the most beautiful places on Earth. They say you can climb those ancient steps and feel the presence of the ancestors who built them. But the locals will tell you, some mountains are better left unclimbed, some villages are better left unfound, and some doors should never, ever be opened. Because somewhere in those mountains, in a village that doesn't exist on any map, a woman made of wood and shadow stands guard over 100 doorways, still keeping watch, still holding back the darkness, still waiting for the door that will finally break. If you enjoyed this story, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.